know that I fought for everyone's right to have an opinion in this country, but I also fought for freedom, and it is not fair to be black in America and still not be free in 2021. That is not okay.
So love is the answer. Not violence, not color, but love.
I am here with a group of college and high school students from Northumberland County originally. Some of them do not live in this area any longer or are back visiting from school right now. And we are here to talk about a couple of different topics. And Trinity, whom I'm kind of pointing the camera to right now, is going to be our moderator. But let me introduce you all. This is Colette. You want to say hi, Colette, and your last name?
Katie.
Okay, actually, I'll let you guys just say your names and go
Okay.
from there. And tell me a little bit about you, Colette.
So I grew up in Northumberland County. I live in Reedville. I still live there. I currently go to college at North Carolina A&T in Greensboro.
Okay.
My name is Trinity B. I'm a college junior at the College of William and Mary. I'm studying neuroscience, and I'm a high school varsity coach here for track and cross country.
Okay.
My name is Khadijah B. I'm a junior at William and Mary, and I'm studying math and art there.
Okay. And on the screen here, we have Dion. So can you introduce yourself and tell us about yourself?
Sure. So I also grew up in Northumberland County and graduated from Northumberland High School, and I'm now a graduate student at George Mason University, obtaining a master's degree in public administration.
Woohoo, that's my kid's alma mater. George Mason is.
Mine too.
I'm Michael Cox, and I'm a sophomore at Northumberland High School.
How's that going for you? Are they having classes yet?
No, it's
Yeah.
closed.
Everything's virtual still.
Hi, I'm Denzel Mitchell. I grew up in Northumberland County, graduated from Northumberland High School, and now I go to the University of Virginia, and I study political and social thought and economics.
Okay. All right, so take it over to Trinity, and she's going to get us rolling.
Okay, we're going to be discussing the Black Lives Matter movement and how that personally affected you guys. I know we're all in school, so how you felt like it affected your high school life in Michael and then your college life for the rest of you guys.
So anybody can start.
Are we going based on the questions? Or?
This is basically like an open discussion on Black Lives Matter. I'll start off with a question if you want. What would you guys say were the biggest impacts of Black Lives Matter movement for you guys? I know that this summer Kilmarnock and Montrose held peaceful protests that the public either really, really liked or really, really did not. There were a lot of comments about it. I attended a peaceful protest in Kilmarnock. What did you guys do to stay active in the community? How did you guys feel about the movement? What are your current thoughts?
So I also attended one of the protests in Kilmarnock and one in Gloucester. And I think the biggest impact for me of the Black Lives Matter movement is hearing, I guess, like a more open discussion with white people about things that I've always grown up hearing or things that I had to kind of navigate on my own or things that my parents had taught me about. I think that before the Black Lives Matter movement, things like The Talk, which is something that I saw in the news, or like a white news broadcaster was telling everyone that, there's something that African American parents have to talk to their sons about to teach them like how to avoid confrontations with the police. And so I think that before the Black Lives Matter movement, that was something that was very taboo because for white people, especially because I think that it makes them uncomfortable generally talking about things like that. So I think that it opened up the floor for a lot of discussion and it shed light on a lot of issues, but it just shows, in my opinion, how much more work needs to be done in order to fix a lot of the things that are going on.
because not a lot of people my age and my demographic group care about things like that as much. But because we're on the news, we're seeing. I remember when Trayvon Martin got shot and killed. I still remember that. That was on the news. Ferguson burning down, and then push forward, 5+ years, we're still rioting and marching for the same stuff. And it just it's really a catalyst to just, like she was saying, open up the floor for the discussion, because if you can't have a discussion, then there's no room to progress.
I'm not sure if anybody else is speaking really see, but I know for me personally, although I wasn't able to attend any of the protests in Northumberland County or just in the Northern End in general, I did organize a protest at George Mason University, a peaceful demonstration just to celebrate and just sit with everything that we were seeing on the news and just give people a safe space to mourn and to have those feelings that all of us of color, people of color, had every time we turn on the news and see that another black man or black woman has been shot. So it personally affected me so much so that I thought that it would be really profound to organize a protest on the campus of a former slave owner, just for black people.
Did you?
I did, yes.
And how did it go?
It went very well. I actually got a lot of good responses. There was over 1,000 people that attended, including faculty and staff and students. A lot of alumni actually came back to also march. We had speakers, and it was also in light of we just got our first black president in the 49 years that our university has been established. So,
Wow, good for you. Anybody else?
I also attended a protest in Kilmarnock, but at William & Mary, a fellow classmate hosted weekly protests every Saturday. She would be out there it's called Confusion Corner, Williamsburg. She would be there with whoever wanted to show up with signs and stuff, and it was very peaceful. And that's the thing I like about these protests, and I like being involved. But also, on the other side, I was scared, kind of, because as I was going past protests, like driving, I never really knew at first glance what kind of protest it was. So it scares me when I see protests that where people are arguing for things that aren't necessarily good. And then I also feel for the people who are protesting for the same things I protest for and that I believe in. And I worry for them because at William & Mary, there was a lot of stuff happening this summer where, for instance, they paid a lot of money for a security guard to watch the Jefferson statue instead of doing a lot of other things that needed to be done. And there were a lot of times where a lot of people were profiled by police on campus this summer just for walking because of everything going on.
So I would say the Black Lives Matter movement had the biggest impact on me in this sense. The fact that it made a lot of people uncomfortable was a good thing because it just showed that the conversation needed to be had and that it wasn't one-sided. It's just not this one black person who has an issue on TV, they're having a media outcry. This has happened across the country daily, every single day. There are hashtags every single day. And I think the fact that we were able to have something in Kilmarnock, of all places, and it be peaceful was amazing. However, I will say, on the other hand, we were met with a lot of harsh criticism. They shut down the town of Kilmarnock, like the Walmart, the McDonald's. They were afraid that we were going to vandalize areas, and we were always purposeful in our intent that this was going to be peaceful, always going to be peaceful. But instead, we had people who are against us because they thought that this was it's not about the politics. It's not. It's about lives that are just lost for absolutely no reason other than hatred, and that's just not okay. There were Lancaster residents that said that they were going to post up with AR-15s at businesses. I did not personally see any of them, but I know that I fought for everyone's right to have an opinion in this country, but I also fought for freedom, and it is not fair to be black in America and still not be free in 2021. That is not okay.
Before Denzel goes, I just wanted to say, just bouncing off of that, when I was protesting in Kilmarnock, there was people from a local business who were actually like yelling at us, like yelling at teenagers walking down the street. My granddad was actually really scared for me to just walk in Kilmarnock for a protest because people were saying like he heard that people were going to bring the police from Richmond and like all this stuff because they were scared of what we were going to do. And I think that's very representative of the fact that like what's going on is also going on in rural areas. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Just looking at the reactions, I think in rural areas, as across the country, as it was across the country, there's a lot of fear of progress. We were talking about it before we started having this conversation. There's a fear of change. And to recognize that, especially in rural areas like this one, to have a history that's present of racism. Mitchell isn't an African last name. Mitchell is a slave owner's last name, and that's my last name. So, and there's many people like that. You'll meet people with the last name like Cockrell. Black, there's African American Cockrells and there's white Cockrells, and there's a reason for that. And it's because of slavery and the history of slavery in this county, and we haven't confronted that. So people are fearful of taking that on, and that's not only white people, but that may be some of the older African American folks who are scared of confrontation because they may have experienced backlash. And the other thing I was going to say is just looking at what has happened since the Black Lives Matter protest. I think there was a lot of good things that occurred. A lot of companies made changes and politicians said what they had to say at the moment. But I was fearful of that. Because it gave people and politicians and companies the opportunity to say that they did something without making a real long-term change. And especially in this area, I haven't seen a real long-term change. Things are still the same. Conversations still aren't happening as they should in terms for change. I know all progress is good, and I don't want to say that any of the work that was done didn't do anything good. I give credit where credit is due, but it's going to take more than one summer. Essentially what I'm saying, it's going to take more than one summer for us to see the changes that are necessary. And it's going to take more than protests, and it's going to take changes to the way we run our schools, and to the way, like we were talking about, run our health clinics, and the access that we have to certain resources in this area, right? Because racism also has to do with the economy and the social aspects of the community. So that just takes a lot of time. So I hope that can be what happens next. And I guess in some way that's up to me and everyone else too.
What he was saying, systematic problems require systematic means of resolution. And something I think that this across the board has done was show the black community the political power we have and the economic power we have. We pump trillions of dollars a year into the market here because we're consumers. That's really our major demographic. And when we see how important voting is and being a part of that political process, we drive entire elections in different directions. And so a key part of getting to where we want is realizing our ability to push us where we want to go, rather than advocating for a system that has not benefited us much to do something that we can do for ourselves.
Makes sense. So we're here with Destiny and Tiara, and they are going to talk to us a little bit about Black Lives Matter. It's a question that's been on everyone's mind this year, and I think that they give you a unique perspective since they're both high school students. So I'm going to let them take it away and tell you their thoughts as Black teenagers, how Black Lives Matter have affected them this year and what their thoughts are about it.
Okay, so I think was and still is an amazing movement because Black people always have to fear the police and also being feared of everybody else because white people always think that just because of our skin color that we are very threatening, even though we're not, and just because a lot of people want to associate crime with people of color, that's not true. And when people say that people of color are more likely to do crimes, it's not true. It's just that police are more enforced in colored neighborhoods than it is in white neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you.
Well, what I think about the movement, it's implying that in history that Black lives did not matter, because many people today are saying, oh yeah, all lives matter. That's implying that before they didn't think that white lives mattered. So when they talk about Black Lives Matter, they're just saying that it didn't really matter before when they said everyone is created equally. This is just saying, okay, we have to make sure that we're including Black lives. And what it has shown us that we need to take into consideration every color, whether they're light-skinned or dark-skinned.
So I didn't really hear in both of your responses how this has affected you.
Well, because we are children in America that are Black, it affects us because many people are like, oh, are you for the Black Lives Movement? Are you going to this protest? And I personally, when they do start the rioting and stuff, that I think that really affects all people of color because it shines a bad light on all of us. And for us to make a change, we shouldn't be violent about it.
Yeah, it affected both of us because we were pulled out of school, and when we were in school, you would have to always deal with the white kids always calling you names, saying the N-word to you, and showing that they were more powerful than you, especially when you got into fights with them. And their parents always went and called in, and then the kids of color always ended up getting in trouble. And the white kids got off scot-free, even if they did say a racial slur, started the fight. The kids of color would end up getting the worst half of it, while the white kids got off scot-free.
Where do you guys attend school?
I used to attend Taylor until I got put into homeschool, and you would see kids get into fights on a daily basis because they were always called names for their skin tone, being called racial slurs, and all of that. And when the white kids finally decided they wanted to fight, they would end up fighting in the bathroom, and then when they got hurt too badly, they wanted to go and call to their parents, while kids that were colored ended up just facing them.
So do you think, now that we've gone through all of this year, that there would be a change when you go back to school in that attitude because we're all going through the same thing right now? Do you think that's going to make a difference?
No, I don't really think that, because in the end, what kids are taught will be stuck with them. And so the way parents raise their kids and all that, so if you raised up with racist parents, that's just how it's gonna be, and because it's engraved into them. Because when you're a child, the most learned lessons will stick with you. So if you were taught racism, that's what you're gonna learn, and that's what you're gonna stick with. And when you were taught not to be racist, that's what's going to be stuck with you.
What do you think, Destiny?
I really would have to agree with her on a lot of the points that she said, but I also think that if we work really hard with one another, we can make a little bit of a change.
That's a good attitude to have. I hope that that's the case. I hope that we can see some good changes come out of everything that everyone has had to go through this year, with COVID making us all stay at home, to be a little bit closer to our families, hopefully. But like you said, Tiara, it's really going to be hard if those ingrained values are already there. How do you change that?